So some of you may have remembered a while back, I sat down and I planted 5 Voyager tomatoes, or also known as travelers, in the red cups. And that is the one all the way to the right. I waited and had 2 come up, which was better than last year because I planted 5 seeds and only 1 came up. But being patient, and as I was waiting for them to grow, 2 more popped up. That's 4 seeds growing out of the 5 I planted. Well, today I'm going to show you how easy it is to take these 4 plants and save them all, even those tiny ones that some people call weak plants, and make 4 plants out of them without damaging them in the unique way I plant my plants, which is going to be really easy because we're going to lift. Well, you know what? Let's just get into this and let's explain everything there is about tomato plants and seedlings. And I think you'll walk away maybe even learning something or at least thinking about it. So looky here. Remember this tomato plant that I had in here? This is the Voyager, also known as the Traveler. And I was so excited because last year I planted 5 seeds and only 1 came up. Earlier, I told you 2 came up out of 5 seeds. Well, to my surprise, 2 more have come up. So 4 out of the 5, and who knows, the 5th may come up as well, are growing. But let me tell you something. The average farmer or gardener would tell you, no, get rid of those 2 little weak seedlings and concentrate and only grow the big ones. Well, I'm going to disagree on that completely, because nature has set them up to do just exactly what they did. When I planted those seeds, 2 of them came up right away. No matter what I did, putting it in my little greenhouse, only 2 grew. Now we're getting closer to spring, and what happened with the other seeds? 2 more came up. That doesn't mean they're weak. They're a little time clock. They're like a time capsule, those little seeds. Well, their time clock told them it was time to grow, and those 2 are now growing. So I've got 2 big ones now and 2 small ones. Now, why would that happen? Well, in the wild, in nature, if seeds fall, think about it, not all of them grow right away. Now, why would that happen? Let's say half of them grow, and everything would be wonderful. And then all of a sudden, a terrible storm comes, wind, flooding, rain, hail, snow. Well, what would happen to those beautiful seedlings that came up right away? They would fizzle out, be crushed, and they'd be gone. Well, if all the seeds grew, that would be the end of the plant, right? That dropped its seeds. Well, nature set up some of the seeds to wait. Wait for another time. Maybe they're just not supposed to grow for another month, maybe 2 months. Maybe it's the weather, the sun, something. But something has told some of the seeds to wait. That's natural. It doesn't mean that those 2 little seedlings down there are not going to grow. It just means it wasn't time and they waited. And I could not force them because it wasn't their time. They knew inside when it was time to grow, and it is now. Now, saying all this, let me explain one more thing. If I leave them as they are with the 2 big ones and just let them sit, the 2 little ones are not going to grow. Why? Because the big ones are taking all the nutrients out of the pot, and they are the strongest right now. With good weather and being babied by me, they're going to continue to grow, where the little ones are going to be small and weak, trying to get anything that's left out of the soil that the 2 bigger ones left behind or is still there. So the smart thing to do, which we're going to do, is lift them out, separate the 4 of them. I'm not going to wait for the 5th to come up. And this will give those 2 tiny ones that just popped up a good fighting chance to grow on their own because they'll be separated. A lot of times, plants, what they do is they give something off to not allow other plants to grow around them. So when they get to a certain size, you'll notice a lot of times that nothing will grow near them because something is being given off by the plant to protect the large, healthy plants, the ones that grew first, and if all goes well, to not let anything else grow so they can produce and have fruit. That's what nature does. So right now, it is smart to get those 2 little ones out within the next couple days, which we're going to do now. And this way, they'll have their own container. They won't have any competition at all, and everybody should be really happy. So don't discard your little ones because they came up late. It just meant that they were waiting because, well, nature told them to wait. It's not your turn. And with the time clock, it's the smartest thing in the world when you think about it, isn't it? Because if something happened to the two large ones, let's say anything happened, I left them outside and they dried up or they got too wet, they got flooded out, something happened. Well, in the meantime, there were two more little seeds down there waiting for the proper time, and they would have popped up. Isn't nature wonderful? I think it's absolutely amazing when you step out and think about it. So let's get these voyagers separated so we can have 4 plants, and this will be really cool. I kept waiting to see if a 5th one would pop up. It didn't. And like I said, it still could. If I left them, the problem is I'm risking now not letting the other 2 get some size. The 5th one could pop up in another couple weeks. Again, the time clock inside is telling it to wait. And one last thing, when we separate it, if I don't see the last 5th seed, and if it is good, and if it is waiting for the time to pop up, it still could if it doesn't get buried to the very bottom, because that's the way nature has set it up. Now these cups are going to have holes in it, and I plugged in my soldering iron. I made it hot, and then I unplugged it, but it was hot enough to get all the cups done so I can get my plants planted. So now they're ready to go. Now here is one of the tomatoes I pulled off the original plant that I grew in the winter. They're really small, but when the plant grows in the spring and summer, it should get big tomatoes. I just grew it all winter. Now, what you're going to see here is a very different way that I grow a lot of my plants. I have this cup with Tulle in it, so there's no turning the cup upside down and shaking the plant on its head and trying to get it out. You know what I mean. I simply lift it up. I do a lot of my seedlings this way. It works fantastic for me. And now all I have to do is unwrap it. It's kind of like air pruning in a way, but you don't get a lot of rolling as far as roots going around the cup. Now here I am separating all 4 of the plants. It's really simple and really easy, and you just go gently. Remember, if some of the roots break off, it's not that big of a deal, because when the plants are this young and you're careful and you don't damage the little tiny delicate trunk, this plant wants to grow. So even if some of the roots come off, it just is so eager at this time, you really can't hurt it. So now we've got all 4 plants separated, and now it's just a matter of putting them in their own pot. Now I am using baked soil. This is potting mix right out of the bag, but I did bake it. Now the reason I baked it, it's in the house. I wanted to make sure there's no gnats or anything in the soil. Once in a while, when you get a bag of soil, I've heard people say they see gnats flying out. Then you'll have gnats around your house going into your house plants and stuff. And what they do is they eat the roots of the plant, but there's many ways of getting rid of them. If you bake it, you know that there's nothing in there. I only bake it for new seeds, and since I've got it in the house, I'm going to use it for this because they will be going out in a tote or a container later. You don't have to bake it if you don't want to. It's just something I do to make sure that there's no bugs in there. And now it's just a matter of potting each one up and taking your time and not to damage the plant. I'm not going to drop it down and bury too much of the roots when it's this young. I'm just getting it nicely planted and giving each one their own housing so each plant can develop into the nice big plant that it really wants to grow and be. Now, being separated, there's no fighting over nutrients or fighting over space. They're going to have their own container. And that is why we can many times save even those little ones that simply waited, not because they were weak, just wasn't the right time. So now they're all planted in their own pot. So when I feel it's the right time to plant them outside, it'll just be a matter of popping them out. I'm not going to put Tulle in these cups because now that I'm dealing with one plant at a time, yes, I'll do the old-fashioned tipping it over and getting it out of the cup because they'll be strong and ready to go and it won't hurt them. And that blue container, that's a cup caddy. I got that at Dollar Tree for $1.25, and it's perfect to drop in those red plastic cups that I plant in. And this way, there's no water all over, and I can move them anytime I want. So as you can see, I'm working on plants. That's why I've got all my pots here and stuff I'm moving around. You know, they're looking really good. I brought them out early this morning. Look how nice and straight that one is. And there they are. So I think they've got a good fighting chance now. These two small ones. And I love this cup caddy that I got at Dollar Tree because I can just put the cups in there, have them draining, have the water catching in there, and I can bring them in because I don't want them in direct sunlight right now until they get well established in their new pot. But all in all, I'm really happy with them. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll keep you up to date on how the Voyager Traveler tomato is doing, because this is going to be, from what I understand, quite a big plant. But the tomatoes are good size too when you've got them in the ground, or at least got them in a container of good size, and you plant them early in the season. Hope you enjoyed this and got a little something out of it. With that, have a wonderful day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye.